Hello everyone, this is Emilia speaking from Couch English, channel dedicated to practical business English. As you probably already know, if you follow our channel, I'm usually sharing some examples of business processes, of trends, of something what is happening in that business environment. And I'm doing my best to combine, on one hand, those business trends together with some typical English vocabulary. So my idea behind running that podcast and running, of course, that channel is dedicated to those two, in fact, goals. On one hand, it's about expansion of your business knowledge, listening to something interesting, at least in my opinion. And on the other hand, of course, it's always about English as well. Today, I would like to share with you the topic connected with multi-working. And in fact, when I'm going to talk about that particular aspect, that particular trend that is becoming more and more popular, I will also relate to overemployment because probably when we think about those two trends right now entering and emerging in the market, they can be a little bit confusing, a little bit baffling. So that's why I'm going to also explain how we can understand multi-working in comparison to overemployment. And if it is about multi-working, it is some kind of the trend that has been becoming more and more popular, especially during the pandemic time when people started working remotely. And how it works. Well, if it is about multi-working, that's the practice of individuals engaging in multiple jobs or different kind of the roles at the same time, simultaneously. It means that I can have some contract in one company performing the tasks related, for example, to running business English courses. And at the same time, I can work for another organization doing either similar job, but at the same time, I can do something completely different. So if I multi-work, it doesn't limit me to my one single or even like main profession, but I can do different kind of the tasks. I can execute different kind of the roles at the same time. It works this way that that kind of form of collaboration or that form of work is usually related to temporary collaboration, but of course rather related to temporary collaboration. It doesn't mean that only at certain time, at certain aspect of my life, I will be working in that form of collaboration. Of course not. It can happen that I'm going to start my work, I'm going to start my career path, and I will decide to choose multi-working. And after a few years, I will say, okay, that's it. And right now, I would rather prefer to work for one company. I would like to have one employment contract, full-time job, doing one specifics of the tasks, and that's it. But of course, it doesn't have to work like that. So for some people, it is just temporary form of the collaboration for a specific time period. But of course, there can be some of us who prefer to work like that, let's say probably for the whole life. But what is going to be definitely important is that if we choose multi-working, of course, depending on the local labor law, depending on different kind of the regulations in given countries, it will rather work in that way that following multi-working, we have to consider rather some flexible forms of employment contracts or flexible forms of collaboration contracts. It means that not necessarily I will have one employment contract dedicated to one company and another contract signed with another company, but it may have different forms of collaboration. It can be some B2B contract, some freelancing contract, some kind of the civil contract, because usually, depending on the specifics of the local regulations, it might be even difficult to work for several companies having only the employment contract. In some countries, it is connected, among the others, with the competition ban. And that would mean that I can be limited or I can be even forbidden to take the roles in different kind of the companies. That's why, again, depending on the country, depending on the regulations, depending on the labor law, it might occur that if I want to multi-work, so if I want to work for different companies, having different roles, having different kind of the responsibilities and tasks to be executed, I might choose different form of collaboration. Again, it can be some B2B contract, it can be some kind of civil task contract. If I decide to choose multi-working, the formula, how I'm going to execute the tasks, how I'm going to deliver the assignments, it really depends. It can even happen in multi-working that, for example, I will decide to become a recruiter and I will have contract for one company. I will also sign the contract with another company. And in both of those organizations, I will be recruiter here and recruiter here. But typically, it is a little bit different, and it will rather work in that way that I will have one contract for one company doing, for example, those business English courses. For another organization, I will deliver the task connected, let's say, with recruitment. And maybe for some other organization, I will do something completely different. So quite typically, multi-working is going to be connected with multiple jobs, but by multiple this time, I mean the variety of different kind of the professions and different kind of the responsibilities. Again, it doesn't have to be like that, but quite often it is connected with that kind of diversity, and why in the moment when we're going to move to the benefits, you will see why it can be quite beneficial to have those different kind of the professions. And at the very beginning, I mentioned that we can face right now, we can meet different kind of the trends. So on one hand, it's about multi-working, I already described, but the trend that has been also visible, if we think about the business world, is overemployment. To some extent, they are overlapping, but there will be some kind of the differences between multi-working and overemployment. Cause multi-working can be connected with the situation that if, for example, per week normally or traditionally or on average, employees or people are going to work for 40 hours, let's say, per week. On average, of course, still depending on the country, but let's say it will be 40 hours per week. In multi-working, it is going to work in that way that, for example, I will dedicate 20 hours to one company, 10 hours to another company, and 10 hours to the final company. So altogether, if I'm going to aggregate all these organizations, it will be still 40 hours per week, which is again quite typical if we think about the labor law and the involvement of people in work. But if it is about overemployment, the specifics of this diversity is still similar and the same as in case of multi-working. So I can work for several organizations, but there is that word over. And it means that I don't have 40 hours per week, but I will work more. For example, I will work for one company dedicating to this organization 40 hours per week. So I will have full-time employment. But at the same time, I will sign the agreement with another organization. And with that second organization, my employment contract will also work on a full-time basis. 40 hours here, 40 hours here. So I will have two full-time jobs. And that's overemployment. That's why we have over. And overemployment is quite problematic for the organizations because it means that we have people who should work for us for full time. And unfortunately, it really can happen that people will be doing their jobs simultaneously, but this time simultaneously, I mean at the same time. So it can even work that way that I have one computer dedicated to one company, another computer for another company. I still work, for example, 8, 9, maybe 12 hours per day, not 16, but I'm doing a bit of the job, a bit of the tasks here, a bit here, and I'm somehow combining, although both of those companies, they pay me, of course, for full-time job, full-time job. So it might be a bit uncomfy and inconvenient for the organizations because they don't have the guarantee that somebody dedicates those really 8 hours to one company per day. I don't want, of course, to say that it's a standard, it's a rule, but it might unfortunately happen this way that if we're overemployed, we have full-time contracts for two or even more organizations. In multi-working, there isn't that kind of the assumption, but of course, still it can happen because overemployment is also about multi-working. I work here, here, here. But again, over means that I work more than average. Coming back to multi-working, the main reasons. why people might, of course, select that form of collaboration. It can be connected with the fact that I'm just a graduate. I'm just after the studies, after the university, I just graduated from some certain type of the school. And most probably, especially if I'm quite young, I don't know yet what I would like to do, which is pretty obvious and natural because how after school, if I didn't have any kind of the contact with work, with the working environment, how can I know what I want to do in my future career? So probably one of the solutions that I can experiment with is going to be connected with multi-working. And it means that I will work for a few companies. I will most probably execute the tasks from different areas of the professions. And that's why I said that multi-working is quite often going to be connected with those different roles, different professions, different kind of the assignments, because that's about experimentation. I'm just a graduate. I want to check what I like, what I don't. I want to see my preferences. I want to see my predispositions. That's why I will explore a little bit different kind of the departments, different kind of the industries, different kind of the areas just to check what I like. And maybe after some time, I will decide, okay, so I checked how it is with running those business English courses. I already know how about recruitment. I already know how about running business trainings and different kind of the professions, positions, responsibilities. And after a few years, I take a decision, well, I would like to concentrate on that one particular aspect of work. Or after those few years, I would decide, well, I like it. I really like the fact that I can work for different companies. I can do different kind of the tasks. It is giving me a lot of pleasure. I can really achieve a lot. I can learn a lot. I'm not bored because I'm just switching. So maybe after some time, I will just decide that that form of collaboration, that form of work is the best. And I really like it and I want to follow with that. To some extent, that multi-working is also breaking the traditional approach. And probably that's the approach that we could observe for many, many years, where after the studies, we had to choose the profession, and then we had to work following that profession till the retirement. It was even happening probably to some of us that we didn't even like it, but come on. We graduated from the university. We did some kind of the courses. We did some kind of the preparation. So now, till the end of the life, we have to follow that initial career path. It maybe didn't make sense for some of us, but that kind of the trend, so this multi-working, it will change a little bit our approach to this traditional career path, and we can again select, experiment, and check what is the best to us. And one operational aspect connected with multi-working is connected with the required duration. And why is it going to be important? Well, if I'm supposed to collaborate with different kind of the organizations, and I'm going to execute the task for them, it is really important for me just simply to plan my time, to plan my involvement. And if I'm going to know for how long I should work for that organization, or even how many hours per day, per week, I should dedicate to them, then I will know how much time I still have and I still can dedicate to the other organizations. So that is going to be something important from the point of view of multi-workers, that they will need that information from organizations, from clients, from the companies, from the employers, for how long they're going to be assigned to the project, to some particular type of the job, and how many hours, how much time should be dedicated to work, because that's how again they can manage, of course, the timing and their contribution to the companies. And apart from the fact that multi-working is definitely connected with that experimentation, we can explore our preferences, as I was mentioning. We can really develop ourselves in diverse dimensions. I would say that there is one more aspect that can be significant from the point of view of the current market, and it is in fact security. And I know it wouldn't be the obvious benefit, because typically when we think about employment contract, working for one company, we think, yeah, that's stable. It gives high level of the security. So come on, like multi-working, working for several companies, having those flexible form of collaboration. Where is the security here? But that's about diversification. And it is exactly the same what is being done by plenty of the organizations, that a lot of companies, they don't produce only one type of the product, one type of the service, but they have different kind of the units. They have different kind of the industries in which they work, and they develop products in different kind of the areas. It's quite stable and it's quite safe for those companies, because then they have the guarantee that even if one product is not going to be profitable, successful, they always can concentrate on different ones. And that's why I would say that from the individual point of view, it's also something extremely important, because then I will know, okay, I have collaboration with different kind of the companies. So even if the contract for that particular organization is going to be completed, I still have other possibilities. Or if I have just like single employment contract, especially during the crisis, during some difficult situations, it can occur that of course I'm going to be terminated. And in case of multi-working, I have always some kind of the backup plan. I have some kind of protection because I also have the contract signed with another organizations. Multi-working is definitely beneficial from the point of view of individuals. Of course, still, I would say, depending on our personality, because there are definitely some people who would say, no, that's not for me. Like employment contract, stability, it's like really something really important for me. I just want to concentrate on one profession. But there are people who love that kind of the variety, that kind of the flexibility. But it's also about the benefits that can be listed from the point of view of the organizations. Because if we think about multi-workers, I would say that those are people who really like changes. They are very flexible, they are very adaptable. And it means that if the company is going to involve multi-workers, they will bring different kind of the experiences. They will bring some kind of fresh ideas from the market because they work for different kind of the organizations. And it means that for the company, it's about innovation, it's about ideas. It's about thinking out of the box. That's why, even if we consider the benefits for the companies, I would say yes, they are there because we're just gaining a bit different skill set if we think about the multi workers. And usually it's also about higher level of productivity. Sorry. Because if I work for different companies, I usually have to be faster. I have to accelerate my pace. I have to maybe even cut the corners a little bit, and I have to contribute all the time being efficient because I know that I have that variety. So that's about the benefits if we think about multi-working and the topic itself. Usually at the very end of each kind of the podcast, I'm just saying that if you like it, if you want to listen to different kind of the business trends, in fact, if you want to expand your business English vocabulary, you can listen to our podcasts, you can enjoy our webinars and also shorts, depending, of course, on the time that you can dedicate to your development and learning. Thank you very much for today, and I hope to see you, of course, soon.